Welcome to Shooting Spaces, a real estate photography podcast. Discussions on gear, technique, industry news, and interviews with the best in the business. Now, here are your hosts, Rich Baum and Brian Berkowitz.
Hello and welcome to Shooting Spaces. I'm Brian from New York.
And Rich Baum from Sacramento, California. And we'd like to say thank you for joining us and tuning in. And today we have a special guest, Aaron Kraft from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And if you haven't checked out his work, it is spectacular. We'll have all the information on the website. But I just want to say this is going to hopefully give you a different look at another way to do real estate photography, or it could be anywhere. I mean, I know Aaron probably works on real estate and bed and breakfast and VRBO. There's always topics coming up. But I'll leave it at that and just say, welcome, Aaron. And thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, yeah. And when I was thinking of people to have on, who better to have on than the PFRE Photography for Real Estate Photographer of the Year for 2017. I want to congratulate you on that. And maybe just incorporate that a little bit into what we're going to talk about today.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Now, if we could just get all the real estate agents to realize that too, that would be great.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's not quite as easy as people think, but I would like to bring up, how do you parlay that into something tangible, which I guess is cash for me. But I certainly want to ask you all about your background and about your experiences. And I was surprised. You said you're from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is known as a cowboy or a ski town. But you're there your whole life. You were born there?
Yeah. I was born and raised here, and left like everybody else does when they grow up in a town. All you want to do is get out and see the rest of the world, and then you figure out it's not such a bad place to be. So you got to come back and try to figure out how to make a living.
And what year were you just taken off, and when did you come back, and what are you doing now that you have come back?
Well, I left for college. I went all the way across the state of Wyoming to Laramie.
For photography?
No, actually, I studied education. So I got a degree in elementary education, and I taught for about a year, and decided that I needed more time off. So I just decided to travel from there, and kind of spent the better part of a decade kind of travel bumming around the world. And that's kind of where my photography developed. I didn't really have much of a background in photography, and not terribly interested in it until I got on the road, and then you're just seeing all these amazing things where you have to figure out how to capture it.
Your passions took over.
Yeah, definitely. Just, always into the kind of creative arts, but the camera was something that I could keep with me, and then through the travels, I always had enough time to figure out how to learn how to use the camera and, the different functions of a camera, just kind of haphazardly, and kind of teaching myself how to use it.
So wait, you actually shoot on manual mode?
I did. I mean, I think when I still do for the most part. But yeah, I mean, I got a camera, and it was kind of one of those glorified point and shoot cameras, but you could change the f-stop, and you could change the shutter speed and everything like that. And so I just kind of started fiddling around with those things, because you have a lot of time on buses and a lot of downtime. So I figured I'd try to learn how to do something new.
That's pretty interesting to me, because most of the people we've spoken to so far, I think all of them, except for you, Nav, come from some sort of tech background. And, you have an education background, and you somehow segued into, this real estate photography and architectural photography. So it's pretty interesting how you got there.
Yeah, it's a strange road sometimes.
Cool. Yeah. So maybe you have a future in education also. You can join Rich. You can join Rich in enlightening others to the ways of real estate photography.
Wait till you're 60 to get an education.
Right. I don't know if teaching photography to 6-year-olds is the best thing, but I'm really enjoying what I do now, so I'm gonna I'm gonna keep going with that for sure.
So how did this go from a hobby into something that you wanted to make a career out of?
Oh, I guess I was trying to figure that out, because I'd heard other interviewees and figure out like, how did I get into this? Because sometimes I don't think most people get into photography saying, hey, I'd like to shoot real estate, and I happen to be in Jackson, and there's quite a bit of money in this town, You wouldn't know it from most of the normal people that live here, but there's
I got to jump in and say, tell us how, I am a skier, and
Sure.
I've been, Jackson Hole, I've been going to for 45 years. And before you were probably born, I was skiing over your house. But I want to say, you've got one of the premier ski areas in the world. And you have all of these condominiums and homes and things. Tell us a little bit about how what you're shooting and how it might be. Is it different from somebody living in Philadelphia or Houston shooting day-to-day stuff? What's it like living in Jackson Hole? And I'm going to come out there and join you, man, because I want to be in Jackson Hole.
Yeah, come on out. It's great.
I will.
If you like the outdoors, it's great. The real estate market it can be tough just because there's a lot of building restrictions here. There's not a whole lot of open land that can be built on. So a lot of what's going on is redevelopment in the town itself. But there's a whole county where people are building, and there's an influx of money from places like Texas and California and overseas. So they're just building these just amazing over-the-top houses. So trying to get into that was something interesting, because right now I think the real estate market is like, they have the lowest amount of homes available on the market right now.
Vacancy rate.
Yeah. And it can be sort of difficult, but it's like, if those certain agents, everything is word of mouth here, just like anywhere else, I'd imagine. So trying to get in with those agents and get the big listings, can lead to other sorts of jobs. Like I've been getting into more long-term luxury vacation rentals. That's a big business around here. So it's kind of a little bit more quote unquote experiential, so I'll work with a designer and a stager, and try to build this feeling, because everybody that wants to come to Jackson is coming for the mountains, they're coming for Yellowstone, they're coming for outdoor adventures, so you got to kind of bring that feeling into your shots, whether it's real estate or anything else, to sell the whole lifestyle, really.
Well, let me ask you, Aaron, if I can, because I'm totally into what you're dealing with, because on my workshops, I have to deal with VRBO, vacation rental by owner, and Airbnb. And I see some less than desirable photos. So let me ask you, if you're going into these vacation rentals, and a lot of people want to know, any suggestions you would have for VRBO or kind of vacation rental and kind of things, Airbnb, or things that you can really tell people regarding pricing or how you get these places? Because everybody wants to know this, or a lot of people want to know this.
Yeah, I think it's a really untapped market. We're just searching for a VRBO in Arizona, and you're looking through and you're going, what, it seems like you would do so much better if you had some photos that weren't all wonky and, all make you dizzy just looking at them. It's like if you just had...
And it sells the property. It sells the property.
It does.
Man.
If you have like an amazing twilight image of your house, it's almost like that catches your eye, I feel like, anyway. So,
and are you dealing with the owners, or are you dealing with the agents, or who are you dealing with?
There are actually companies here that specialize in luxury vacation rentals. And so they'll be property managers, and they'll be, they'll do all the bookings for the people. So I kind of work for them, and they hire myself, and they hire a stager, and then we'll get together, and then we'll kind of create a story for these houses and work through it like it was a real estate shoot, but it takes, 10 to 14 hours, because you want to create the feeling that somebody is living there, and like these little stories. So it's kind of fun, because it's slightly different from real estate, and it's slightly different from just straight architecture, and I feel like it's a little bit more involved. And I get to spend the time doing what I love, shaping light, using modifiers and things like that, and then leave the staging up to the pros, which is really kind of nice. But I've done some work for some private homeowners, that want to do the VRBO thing, and they kind of see my work through other companies like that. So, but I think it's a pretty untapped market, really. When you look anywhere at VRBO, a lot of the work out there is just confusing.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I've been going through to try and that's why I find locations for my workshops. And it is absolutely like a game to try and find something that really shows the property. And one thing I want to really say to you is I compliment you for using the term tell a story. Can you tell the people listening, what does that mean? Because I know what it means to me. And I learned that from the Scott Hargis video series, telling a story. But what does it mean to you? And what is it for that you could transfer to people listening to this in your mundane places like Des Moines, Iowa, or Indianapolis, Indiana in the winter? How do you tell a story? I just think that it works better to kind of tell a story. And this is kind of what I've learned working with stagers, is kind of, you want something a little cohesive. You want to have an overall story, especially in a place like this. People want to come to Jackson because they either want to ski or snowmobile or hike in the park or something like that. So we'll go into a house and create an entire story for this house. Like, these people came and they're big hikers. They're into the outdoors, so each image will have whatever's in there, like hiking boots or something, or this is where they came, they got to the porch and this is a great place to watch the sunrise or the sunset, so they have some wine or some beer out there and their boots are there in a backpack, so it's kind of like it keeps your attention from image to image rather than just having some random images, and you kind of get lost. I think you can be there too.
Right, exactly. It's like we could try to create these images where people step out of the scene, and it's like, oh, then you just took the picture and they're just in the kitchen grabbing another beer. It's like, picture yourself here. And that's what I find some of my clients want, even in real estate, they want to have that reason to be there. It's going to sell the house. And that's kind of what things seem to be going towards around here.
And if our listeners don't get what Aaron is saying, I'm looking at some of your images now as we speak, and I completely understand it. I'm looking at the image right now. You have that in the barn with that square window with the light shining right through, and you can see there's a book on the blanket with a whiskey glass and a pillow, and it literally just tells a story. And there's hay there, and it's awesome image, and I have the whole story in my head already. I see it.
Thanks. That's
you could be here. You could be this person living here.
Yeah, right.
You could live this dream for $500 a day.
And that's funny because that image I shot with the stager that I usually work with. We were shooting that for an ad, and it actually, instead of that image, we ran the image. I put together a composite of us making that image, for an ad. So it's kind of that idea, exactly, like trying to tell that story.
So Aaron, tell me, what is your website? Because anybody who hasn't seen it needs to check it out, because it is absolutely stunning. And it shows these examples of lifestyle. And I think everything everybody wants to go for, because I want to go to Jackson Hole just to live there.
Well, I appreciate that. My last name is Kraft, just like the cheese, Krafty. So it's a play on that. It's www.krafty, Krafty photos.com. And then the Instagram is Krafty_photos.
It's awesome. And I'm looking at your photos now. And let me ask you, what can you say to people that are doing websites. Any suggestions for someone maybe getting into this business and needing to choose specific photos or choose platforms or choose websites? What are your words on that?
I'd love to hear you guys interview somebody that has more experience with that, because I've built this website and it's not exactly where I want it to be, and that
looks great though.
Well, I appreciate
looks
that.
Great.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's all just a learning process, you know. So yeah, I mean, I just think from everything that I understand is like it's like an art show, you know. It's like you want to show your best work, obviously, but you want it all to be kind of similar, you know, so people don't get confused. That's kind of how I try to build it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I just want to say that you have a look about your work that is absolutely different than a lot of people or a lot of real estate photography. Is there anything you would say? Do you do anything different for a shoot that, let's say you're doing a shoot that's, you're getting $2,500 a day for a big shoot or more, and you're doing that? Anything else to say about then scaling down to a 25 image real estate, quote unquote, real estate MLS listing? Any differences in the way you shoot or what you use?
Sure. Yeah, I understand what you mean. It's kind of strange because I got into this sort of completely randomly. Somebody asked me at an event that I was shooting if I shot real estate, having never shot real estate before. And of course I look at them and say, yeah, of course. Yeah, let's do it. So I kind of had to just figure out how to shoot it, you know, and that's where all the, you know, training online comes in. And I always figured that if I was going to get into this, I wanted to shoot what I wanted to shoot my way, whether or not it was something that I wanted to shoot. So I don't know. I probably don't work as fast as everybody else, and I don't, you know, I might not charge the same as everybody else, but I figure if I'm just going to rush through it and shoot super fast and just get it done, it's just going to become a job, you know? So, and that's kind of what I was trying to get away from, you know, with my past. So it's like, I almost shoot the same real estate, you know, even if I'm going to probably take a little bit of a hit. It's like I just want to make those images the way I want to make them, and I think I'm happier for it, really. And I think my clients, my real estate clients, the ones that stick with me, they understand that and they appreciate that. Whereas people that, you know, maybe I'm charging too much or I'm taking too long, you know, they kind of drop away, and that's all right, you know, because the clients that you have and that stick with you, they're more fun to work for.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Brian, if you'd be so kind as to tell us, I'm looking at some of the images on Aaron's website, just going, oh man, I really want to be there. I just want to cuddle up next to a fire and hang out looking out the window. But are you, because you're in Long Island, New York, and that has some beautiful, you must shoot up at Montauk Point or all the beautiful places there. What do you also shoot in the wintertime and doing these kind of, you just kind of transferring the information, just going, I want to live in this place. This is where I want to be. Yeah, well,
it's strange. You know, Montauk Point and the Hamptons, which are all the way out east on Long Island.
That's the one, yeah. They
kind of die out in the winter. So from October, November time till probably end of March, I don't even go out there. There's nothing, because most of it is summer rentals. Most of the people from Manhattan or New York City go out there for the summer.
Interesting.
So it's dead out there. But then come, I would say, mid-April, and Hamptons are about 2 hours from me, but I'm out there twice a week, and I line up 4 or 5 homes in a day to obviously make it worthwhile. And I'm just, you know, nonstop in the Hamptons. And then it actually stays hot till about November time, even though after Labor Day, the Hamptons kind of dies out itself. Everyone goes back to Manhattan, to the city, and they leave, you know, their beach homes. But from September to mid-November, all the agents are hiring me to get photos for the next summer's rentals.
Nice.
Yeah.
So come October, November, I'm shooting nonstop for this past, October, November, I was shooting for the upcoming 2018 summer. So they can start. Now they're starting to market in February. They're starting to market all those summer homes, and they have all the images from last summer that I shot, or from last fall.
So when you're there in October, November, are there homeowners living there, or do you get the kind of free reign of the place?
Yeah, exactly. Those houses are empty. After Labor Day, those houses die out, and a lot of times the agents won't even meet me. So I kind of have free reign of 10,000 square foot houses, and go just do what you want with it.
Well, do you get a chance then to kind of shoot exactly what you want to, even if you're not going to give them those images? Because I'd assume some of those houses are pretty stunning.
Yeah, it really depends on the day. If I'm squeezing in 5 houses in a day, then I'm kind of in and out as quick as I can.
For sure.
And the problem is I don't really drive the 2-hour drive out there for 1 or 2. So it's kind of like a catch-22. If I'm at that point where I have like 3 or possibly a small 4th, and I have a little more time on my hands, then I would play around and go a little crazier and do what I would call, I guess, more architectural as opposed to real estate, where I'd set up lights and maybe light paint or do some other type of stuff to get portfolio type images. But if I'm in a rush to go to the next house, or I'll just kind of, I don't want to say rush through it, but keep my pace up because I have a busy day. So
for sure.
And Aaron, I want to say that you look like you have a mix of wintertime and summer photos on your website. Yeah. Just again, some stunning stuff, man.
Thanks.
Good stuff. But do you find that you need to work with different seasons, or is it like 24/7 for you in Jackson Hole, Wyoming?
Yeah, it's since it is a destination both times a year, it's actually busier in the summer because we're 10 miles away from Grand Teton National Park and 70 some miles away from Yellowstone. So there's a huge influx of people, and the summer is gorgeous here. I call it the 3 weeks of summer. But it's just, that's the busy season. And right now it's starting to get busy, but from about November, through the holidays, it's really pretty slow. But that's when real estate agents, if they have a listing that's, I guess, stale, they might call it, or it's been on the market for a little while, it's like, hey, we shot this in the summer. Let's get some winter shots of it and try to sell the winter aspect, because people come here obviously to ski, so we've got that.
I know I did. I've been going there for 40 years, man. I don't even talk about just how great Jackson Hole's. It's the top of the top.
Well, come on out again.
So let me ask you, I will be there on your doorstep in about a week. Okay. I'm going to knock on your door and come in and go, hey, Rich,
let's go.
What are you shooting with? What are you using to do your photography? Real kind of quick and down and dirty.
Sure, yeah. I don't know if I can give you model numbers and things like that, but I mean, my main camera body is a Canon. I'm a Canon guy, I guess. It's a 5D Mark IV, and I carry a Mark III in the bag as well, just kind of for backup. And I'd say I love, just like everybody else, I love that 24 tilt shift. I'd say that coupled with the 1.4 extender is what I use for the most part. And from there, I mean, I have a variety of lenses, but I love the 45 tilt shift. Kind of everybody wants the Tetons in the shot, so if I can get the house with the Tetons in it, it's almost expected. So if I can back up, I use the 70-200 or, longer to try to pull the mountain scene in and make it look like it's in the backyard, because that's what they want. Which gets a little frustrating because everybody wants the Tetons out of every window, no matter how far away the mountains are.
Well, that's what Photoshop is for, dude.
I guess, but it's, it's like, I love going towards that more, I guess, quote unquote, architectural style where you don't have to bring the window pull in so hard, but everybody wants the view when it's when it's real estate, you know, so I find myself having to kind of do that sometimes where, you know, I might not choose to do that, but whatever the client wants, right?
Yeah, you need to have a Teton library.
To a point.
Exactly. No, I mean, I do. I keep Teton libraries, the sky libraries, you know, snow and grass libraries in my Lightroom catalog. So yeah, and then I guess I just use mostly Paul C. Buff lights. I love natural light.
Really?
I do, yeah. And that's not for any specific reason other than I need some bigger lights for these big dark cabins. You know, like they just build these 10,000 square foot log cabins that are dark, and I need a lot of light.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of white lightnings that are, I think, 1,300 watt seconds, and those will do a lot of the heavy lifting. And then a couple lines.
Thanks a lot. And what do you use for your window pulls? What technique do you use for the window pulls?
I mean, it's
use Wayne Capelli's darken mode.
You know, I'm not even familiar with that. I need to check it out. I've been listening to this podcast, and that's made me want to go check that out. But it's always evolving, and I keep finding different ways of doing that. But I mean, I bracket a lot. So if I'm shooting natural light, I'll bracket the 5 stops, and then when I'm doing the interior, I'll kind of blow out the windows so they're almost white. And then I'll what do you call it in Photoshop? You'll select a color range and click on white, and then bring in another layer from a darker, you know, like a window exposure, and pull that in, and then just kind of feather it in with a brush, basically. And I find that works pretty well usually.
What do you do, Brian, with your windows and your things like that?
There's no exact technique to what I do. It varies based on the image, but I do something very similar to Aaron. I shoot a lot of bracketed shots just in case. And then depending on it, you know, I'll either choose the darken mode, which I do a lot. I very infrequently, which I have to start doing, a la Rich Baum and Wayne, is do the flash the window and brighten it and then just pull it in like that. I do it every so often, but I don't do it as much as I should. But I do like my windows a little more blown out than most people.
For sure.
So I don't, I guess, like you said, Aaron, a little more on the architectural side of things. Even for my real estate photography, I like it a little more blown out. So I never try to get the exact exposure back. So unless the client specifically says, you know, or if I'm shooting like a beach home in the Hamptons and they need to see the beach, that's a different story. But if I'm shooting just a regular home, you know, like what I shot today, and outside is just dreary New York winter, there's not much I want to really show there. So if it's a stop overexposed, it's not gonna kill me, you know?
Yeah.
As I tell people, just because you have a tilt shift doesn't mean you need to go up to 6 feet and tilt down or shift down. And it's the same thing with the window pull. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Most of the time,
and I just got to. It depends, but I'm actually really blown away at your images on your website. I'm looking right now, and a lot of it is absolutely. You don't need to show this beautiful view 100%. You can do it at 80% or 60%. And I want to compliment you because, man, your stuff is, I want to say your stuff is exactly where I want to be, or where I would think anybody wants to be for that particular look. I've just been going through your images and I'm absolutely blown away. You show how you can take a wooden structure with wooden on the ceiling, walls, and floors, wood, and take it and just light it up and make it look great. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of going on here to make that happen, but if you can tell one thing to the people, how do you work with wood? And as you're in that territory and the people that have to deal with it, how do you light up wood?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that compliment coming from you. That's amazing. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Please.
But the wood, it's wood everywhere, and sometimes it's the bane of my existence. But I pretty much always shoot interiors with a circular polarizer on there, and it helps me so much because there's a lot of wood floors and a lot of wood ceilings that reflect light. So a lot of the times what I'm doing is I'm taking a set of images for vertical surfaces, and then I'm rotating the circular polarizer and taking a set for the horizontal images, and I'll blend those in where I need to because there's just glare everywhere, you know. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot of big dark wooden homes where if I'm shooting just natural light, I'm going to get a lot of that blooming around windows that drives everybody nuts. So I kind of have to use that technique that you use, you know, like flashing, you know, straight on, which makes for a horrible image. But when you're compositing those windows in there, you can kind of feather it in there so you don't get any of that bloom around there.
You can control it.
Yeah. And a lot of times you just have to add light almost in some of these homes because they're so cavernous and dark. But it's a fun problem to have because it's always challenging.
I think that's a good thing. It's a fun problem to have. Go ahead, Brian.
So do you shoot natural light when possible? Is that your go-to technique? Because you know your work has, as Rich was saying, your work has this quality to it. I don't want to call it like a render, but it has like this almost CGI look to it, which you know, like very contrasty. But I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not you know saying anything poor about it. It's great, but I'm curious to the technique as to you know how you achieve this look. Is it mostly natural light? Is that what you aim for, and then fill in light when needed? Yeah,
if I can shoot natural light, that's my goal. And if I can shape the light, you know, if it is a sunny day, if I have the time, I'll go outside and hang up. I just use sheets of 3mm plastic sheeting, and I'll kind of clamp that to the windows outside. And that softens the light. And if I'm shooting during the summer, it also cuts color cast. And that'll usually give me a nice soft light that I'm always looking for. And if I need to add light, you know, just to kind of add some direction or just some pop and color, I've been lately using a kind of I think it's about a 6 foot tall V flat that I made, like a big white V flat, and I'll shoot bounce light into that, you know, and it'll kind of give me that direction and a little bit of shadow that I'm looking for.
Oh yeah, I saw that in one of your Instagram pictures. Yeah, behind the scenes on that.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's something that works, and I just keep using it because I love it. But I feel like it kind of mimics natural light a little bit better than shoot through umbrella or maybe bouncing off a slightly colored wall or something like that. Because I can keep the color cast perfectly white.
Wow. I gotta say, again, I'm looking at your images on your website. What's that website again?
It's www.Krafty Photos. So that's Krafty, Krafty.
I just want to say, that was kind of a plug for you, but I just want to say, I think everybody needs to go through your images and just look at them full screen. You have you have one shot I'm looking at, and it shows just like a monotone living room with throw rugs on the couches and a coffee and a croissant, and it has Jackson Hole in the background. And the greatest thing is it's like all seamless. It just looks, and it's an overcast day. And I'm like, that is perfect for you, but you pulled the mother effort off. Sorry for that.
I appreciate that.
But you really pull this off where we don't need to see a blue sky. You have shown, and you know, the blue sky would take away from the image, sometimes. And you're just doing it all. I love it, man. Just love it.
I appreciate that.
You know the image I'm talking about,
exactly.
Right?
It was a pretty amazing house, but it's basically just across the road. You know, you'd never know it was there, but you look out the front window and you can check the snow conditions on the mountain. You know, it's like, oh, hey, look, it looks pretty good. I think I'll go out.
What are in this? Okay, people might not know exactly the image I'm talking about, but what do you want? What are you focusing on? And this is a big question for me too. Not for sharp focus, but what are you focusing on for the motivation of the image? What do you, if you were to say,
Aaron, with your permission, can we post this image in our show notes so people have a reference?
Sure. Yeah. If it's definitely. If it's the same one I'm thinking, it's for it's a luxury property rental. So, I mean, for the right amount of money, you can rent that place, but, it's, it kind of brings it into these houses being in a landscape, and like feeling like, the house itself may not be that amazing. It was, but I mean, it may not, but you want people to feel that. You want them to be like, hey, I'm right across the road from the mountain. I can be there in 2 minutes. Yeah. And you want to give them that feeling like they just woke up. They started a fire. They're having some coffee. They're checking out what's going on in the newspaper. Oh, you look to your left and there's this amazing mountain. There's pretty good snow. I think I'll go out skiing today, and it kind of sells that feeling of it, And that's kind of what I was going for.
Trying to get people to really think about, what is your motivation? What are we shooting here?
Yeah.
So just don't get the job done, but what are you putting out here? And that can happen all the way from the top. But I mean, let's say this listing is $5 million. So it can still happen in a $200,000 listing. You can still, what are we selling here?
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
I think it translates to any kind of price point, really, it's a little bit easier where I am because you have that obvious pull, but I think it can be translated into kind of any price point, really. I hear from my clients that it helps, kind of keep people engaged.
How great is it to get feedback from your clients that actually they get it? They get it. I mean, it's amazing, but it's not that common.
No, it's so true, because sometimes you'll deliver the images and you don't even know if they got them because you don't hear anything. And as an artist, it kind of drives you nuts. It's like you want them to say,
get over that.
But it's the hardest part. But when you do get that feedback, it's so helpful because you feel like you're on the right track or you're on the wrong track, and I can switch it up then.
Yeah. But I want to tell all the people starting out that you don't want to sit back and wait for feedback. No, don't do that. It will drive you crazy, and you're not going to get it. More than likely, you're not going to get it. I feel like
you just have to shoot as well as you can, like make what you want to look at almost, if you at all can, just shoot what you want to shoot, and just make it look as amazing as possible. Because I think in our business, I've heard you guys say, it's all kind of word of mouth. Even in New York, I think I was hearing you say, it's like you can advertise till your face turns blue, but if you get a couple good clients and they're going to tell other people, or other people see your amazing work or whatever, it's going to go a lot further.
Yep, for sure. That's how it is here. Yeah.
And your market must be just crazy saturated with like amazing photographers, really.
Yeah. I'm on Long Island, so it's about 15, 20 miles out of New York City. So I'm a little bit out of the hustle and bustle. Although I do have a lot of commercial clients in Manhattan, but I'm glad that I'm not working the bulk of my work in New York City, because it's oversaturated with photographers. Now, granted, there's a lot of property here in Manhattan. Sure. On any given block, there are probably hundreds and hundreds of apartments, literally. But, everyone and their mother is a photographer out here. So, but being on Long Island, it's a little more spread out, and it's big. To go from east to west of Long Island, it's about 2.5 hour drive. So there's a lot of work out here for me. So it's not bad. I'm not complaining.
No, that's a good problem to have for sure.
Yeah. But if I can shift gears for a minute, or for a few minutes, because I know we're wrapping up, we wanted to talk to you. You are the 2017 PFRE Photographer of the Year.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, because our last interview was with Larry, who started the blog, and he gave us insight from, I guess, his perspective. So why don't you tell us a little bit of PFRE, or your thoughts from a photographer perspective, and the benefits, and
Sure.
how people can learn from it?
Yeah, no, I honestly can't remember how I first ran upon it. It was probably one of those things where just an internet search, but the community is absolutely amazing. And I feel like it's probably one of those resources that helped me a ton, because you have this amazing community of people, willing to give you information. It's like, and I can't find that locally. I can't talk to anybody. I feel like we're all competitors, but I can go on to PFRE, and it's like there's a whole community of people that are shooting amazing photos that are willing to help with any kind of question whatsoever. And then that contest is great, because I feel like you can put your best work in there with everybody else's best work, and then have your peers basically judge you, and give you feedback, which is the most amazing thing I think about that community for sure.
And the peers can be amazing people, in my opinion, just from knowing
definitely.
them. It's just like, okay, it's real estate photography, but you're amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have all these other past winners that I, have some sort of a connection with, whether it's through Instagram or email even, but, and other people that probably should have won over me, and you can just bounce ideas off of each other. It's like, I've got their personal emails now, and he's like, hey, I've got this question. What do you think about this image? So it kind of leads into more than that, but it's a great way to meet amazing other photographers, with nobody feeling like they're giving you any trade secrets that, are going to be used against them or something, So, yeah, I mean, what Larry's done, I think, is great.
Yeah, and I think having that feedback from fellow photographers is huge to improving your own photography. I know for me personally, when I started and I used to post pictures and I used to get feedback, I used to get very defensive, to be honest. Yeah. And it was once I got over that and realized that this is going to help me, and I have to stop defending my pictures because they're people giving me this feedback. It's only going to help me. And don't try to defend why I chose to do something in one particular point, but take what they're saying and learn from it and improve from it. That's when my work started getting better. Yeah,
because they can see things that you're overlooking and you're so invested in your own work that you're not looking at that, and they can be objective and say, hey, what about this? Try cropping it in a little bit more, and it's like, oh, that's amazing. I felt like
exactly.
through that community, I stopped shooting everything at 16 millimeters and said, hey, let's try something a little bit tighter and a little bit more, like 24 millimeters or even, narrower. And I feel like it's changed my work. I'm happier, I get a lot of good feedback. So it's, yeah.
Well, I'd like to certainly have you on in the future, and maybe we can get more involved or delve inside of some of your specific images and understand what you were thinking, how you went about it, and what the editing process was.
I'd love to do it. Thanks.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, Rich. I think that's a good little platform for some of this, is to dive into a couple of these images and talk about the process, because looking at some of your images here, I definitely would love to know how you lit them and the technique behind them. And even some of the post and editing, things that you did with them. So
for sure. I mean, we're all in the same business, so we can all kind of geek out on the same stuff.
Well put, Mr. Kraft. So, Brian, what's going on, and what are we going to say about the final run up to this podcast?
No, we want to thank Aaron for coming on. As everyone knows, let's subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, send us some questions. We got some questions in, so we're looking forward to putting some episodes out with some of the listeners' questions. Again, I want to thank Aaron for coming on. Take a look at some of his work. KraftyPhotos.com, Krafty with a K, and Instagram too. As I mentioned before, I checked out your Instagram page, and you had some cool behind the scenes shots, which are also good to use as learning tools.
Definitely.
And that's about it.
Well, thank you guys.
Okay. Well,
I'm excited about what you guys are doing here, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Oh, our pleasure, Aaron. And we really almost kind of look at you as the new torchbearer for these awesome images. And, you know, spread the wealth of information and the ability to try and help other people. That's kind of what I think we all have in common. And I want to say everybody should check out Aaron's website, because Krafty Photos, KraftyPhotos.com,
yep,
is it? Yeah, KraftyPhotos.com. That's it. Simple, nice. That could be a whole nother show, is how you came with Krafty Photos. There you go. Little play on words. But I just want to say thank you for coming on. I urge people to please look at Aaron's website, because it's going to give you an insight to another way of looking at things, because we as real estate photographers often get pigeonholed, and we end up doing the same thing over and over. And a lot of times it's less than desirable stuff to be doing. And I know for a fact, you know, people think I shoot multi-million-dollar places. Well, I don't always. And I think that you can see what you're going to do today, what you're going to do tomorrow. And then you look at Aaron's stuff and you go, if I move to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which Aaron probably wouldn't like, but if you move to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, you're going to have this beautiful opportunity to shoot these multi-million-dollar houses. And it's just that simple. Yeah. But I urge everybody to find your own space. And that's about it from Rich Baum with ShootingSpacesPodcast.com.
See you next time.
See you guys.
Okay. Bye, guys.
This has been Shooting Spaces, a real estate photography podcast. Subscribe to the show and don't forget to leave us a review. You can also follow Rich and Brian on social media and at their website, ShootingSpacesPodcast.com.